Peaking in high school has got to be one of the most saddest things ever. More sad than a kid finding out that Santa isn't real. High school was definitely an interesting era. It's the years that took up a good part of our teenage life. School drama was the center of attention, the community was small enough to know who was dating who, and if two people threw hands, the entire school would be talking about it. We all had the same teachers, so if there was a test, we could just ask someone from the earlier periods what was on it. But after those 4 years, high school comes to an end. I can feel nostalgic about it, miss it sometimes, but I wouldn't ever go back to it. We've all graduated, and I assumed that everyone moved on with their life, right? Wrong. Because there's a phenomenon called peaking in high school. And what that is pretty much people who had their best life in high school and was never able to reach that amount of success or popularity after they graduate. Or even worse, have it downhill from there. It's when the varsity prodigy of the basketball team or any other sport is breaking records for that year, but then they get into the leagues and they just can't seem to compete. Or it's the prettiest girl at the school that always gets the guys chasing her, but now she has 2 kids and doesn't even know who the baby daddy is. It's so common to the point where we've at least seen one skit video clowning on the topic for those who peaked in high school. But I believe peaking in high school is this common because it's the transition from being a kid to being an adult. In the school system that we're used to, there was direct progression as a form of guidance. You pass your classes, then you move up to the next grade. And during these years, you're kept in a bubble where you move up along your peers. You might be surrounded with different people when you switch from middle school to high school, but the circle stays small, with a maximum of only a couple hundred or a couple thousand students. But after the 12th grade or senior year, you're out. You're on your own to figure out what's next for you. We used to see the same people at school every day, but now we gotta walk our own path of real life. The doors open outside the high school ecosystem. And yeah, school had its problems, but there were a couple of positives that students got out of it. I hated waking up early in the morning just to go to school by 8 a.m., but at least it gave me some discipline and some accountability. There was no way my Asian parents would let me skip school, so I had a decent sleep schedule. Can't say that about now though. And my physical education class was one of my favorite periods. It was the one class where you got to move around instead of sitting at your desk all day. I sucked a lot at the sports, but eventually I found something that I was good at, which was running. I had fun making personal records of my time, and it kept me active without even thinking about it. But now, exercise is all on you. There's no one forcing you to run laps, no scheduled time to be active and move your body. You could be spending your entire day glued to your phone, doom scrolling on a random Tuesday, and nobody would say a thing. This is the adult life. Nobody is holding your hand to help you anymore. And this entire change from the school life to the adult life is what makes people peak in high school, since a lot of people aren't ready for the adulthood. The people who were unprepared were probably too busy talking to girls, being a class menace, getting into fights, or vaping in the bathrooms. I'm so glad I didn't put that much energy into being cool. I think I already accepted that I wasn't really going to be popular. In high school, I only wore what my parents bought me, I had no money, I was built like a chopstick. I did not fit the criteria for being the cool kid. Seeing a cool kid was something else. Man, these guys had so much aura. Everybody in the school knew their name, everyone wanted to be friends with them, they had it all. But after high school, that aura fades, and then we look at them again and realize, why were they put up on a pedestal? They're just an average Joe. This won't apply to everyone, but the popular kids do get hit the hardest because they were always held at a higher expectation. It also didn't help that the popular kids usually had an ego, and I guess you can't really blame them because everybody was being overly nice to them, hyping them up. But after graduation, they won't be getting that treatment anymore, and that's something that they're gonna have to get used to. Years from now, you'll hear them reminiscing like,
"Man, back in high school, I had all the hugs I couldn't even choose."
Like bro, let it go. High school ended years ago. You're too busy living in the past to realize that you're literally taking my order at McDonald's right now. Put the fries in the bag, bro. The crazy thing is how life takes a complete turn during this period. Because I notice, post-graduation is when the nerds come out on top. We see these kids studying so hard in school, who stayed after class to do extra credit work instead of doing what the other kids did. They would be whining and complaining because they got an A- instead of an A on the exam. But those were the ones who ended up getting into a good college and started to glow up, live life, and become successful. Not the ones who focused on the high school drama and chasing girls the whole time. They put their energy towards the future. Someone must have told them something, because they knew life in high school had no significance in the grand scheme of things. Life was not a race, but a marathon. And they made the smart decision to develop a good work ethic and personality. So the ones who worked hard, missed out on the high school years to enjoy college, I applaud them. These people are the type to have the biggest glow-ups too. Cause all the pretty girls and guys in high school used to be the center of attention. But the shy girl or guy who kept to themselves, a bit more reserved, they're the type to glow up post-high school. And the best part is how they're humble, since they developed a personality before their looks. So far, I talked about the popular kids who fall off and the nerds who glow up. But where does the majority stand? Because most of us aren't either of these two, we're more so in between. Take a look at this bell curve. You got a small percentage of the super popular kids in the front, and then a small percentage of the ones who get picked on, but the vast majority, that's most of us, the middle ground. And unfortunately, the real tragedy of peaking in high school isn't the popular kids, it's definitely not the nerds, but it's the ones who are average. Because most of the ones who fall in the middle still have something going on for them, some potential, but they stayed average, and they never took off. Because yeah, the popular kids that fell off had the biggest hit, but at least they got that high. At least one point in their life, they were on top. But the ones who are average kind of seem to fall invisible and comfortable with where they are. And that's sad, because it's not like they crashed and burned, but they never really rose either. They never got to experience a peak in life, just a flat line of mediocrity. For example, we have those types of entrepreneurs who dive into making music, making a clothing brand, or being a content creator. I'm listing that because I found that to be the most common in my school. And they might not have the best content or the best music or the best designs for their clothes, but they were trying, and they might succeed if they kept at it for a couple more years. But then they stopped trying, and they're gone. Another example would be the extremely smart students. I'm not talking about like the 3.7 GPA students, I'm talking about the ones who went above and beyond, the ones who took AP classes, college courses while in high school. They're academic weapons, but this time, maybe they weren't as fortunate as others who made it to their dream school and got slapped with the rejection. And instead of pushing forward, they just gave up. I used to see these guys pulling all-nighters to finish assignments. Now, they're pulling all-nighters to play Valorant. Like, what the fuck? And it sucks because I know how hard they worked. But one setback just kind of made them stop caring, and they just settled. But you shouldn't settle. You can't stop trying because of a rejection. Look at Eric O. This guy has a great story on how he got rejected from his dream schools, but instead of quitting, he went to community college, put in the work, made it to USC, and now he's living better than ever. All because he kept going.
As he is right, I used to be such a loser, and now I'm less of a loser. Kind of.
At the end of the day, high school is just a small chapter in your life. You still have a whole life ahead of you. If any of you guys watching are still in high school, my best advice is to look forward with optimism in your future. So don't worry too much about the high school drama. Your crush that you get rejected by won't matter. You'll have to face getting rejected on a daily. That test you failed, it won't matter either. You're gonna fail plenty more exams in the future. But keep your head up and you'll be fine.